Hey, everybody, and welcome you to another episode of the Other Side of the Story podcast, where we're delving into people's journeys, their lifestyle, successes. And I love the story that you're about to hear today from Jacob Buchner, who is a personal trainer. I love that. His higher standard dimension, I think, or higher standard coaching, excuse me, that he's doing in the Chicago, Illinois area. And so we're just so excited to have him on the broadcast today because his story is amazing of overcoming some challenges in his life, where he is now as a 25-year-old man doing great things and helping really transform men's lives by their training and discipline and really building a foundation for their life. So Jacob, welcome. Thank you for jumping on the podcast today.
I appreciate the intro, man. I'm super excited to hop on here and talk to you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think our connection really, because I'm really into fitness and exercise. One of my addictions is exercise. Matter of fact, I think you're living in the Chicago area. Is that right?
Yeah. Like I'm like 45 minutes away from Chicago, but I always say
Yeah,
Chicago area.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
I actually ran my first marathon in Chicago in
Oh, nice.
2018. Yeah.
Nice.
Then
That's
my son
awesome.
ran the 2019 Chicago
Dang.
Marathon.
Those are serious.
So
That's awesome,
yeah,
man.
that's probably the best marathon you can start on because it's a
Yeah.
flat course.
Hmm.
People come out, man, cheering on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You see Chicago like never you ever could running through it. The city is
Right.
great.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. And that's what I heard too. I mean, I'm not a big runner, but I heard that Chicago's the best because of the flat ground and stuff like that. So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it really was amazing, Purge. But we
Nice.
appreciate you coming on. I know your
For
story is going to
sure.
help people. That's what it's about. But you're at a point now in your life. Have figured some things out, right, on your
Right.
journey, and you're helping people and getting them trained, fit, and then helps the whole body, mindset, soul, and spirit. But what got you there, man? I know growing up, you having to come through some adversity or crisis. So talk about that for a second. That your journey as a teenager, where you started learning there about yourself.
Yeah, so as far as pretty much my whole life, I played basketball like my whole entire life. That was everything to me. And so leading all the way up into like high school, college, high school, I was like the big athlete at high school. And then leading into college, that's when pretty much everything kind of shifted in my life where it was like nobody knew who I was. And it was like I pretty much had to restart everything. And I was like, so that's really where like the transition, because high school, teenage years, like I was just living it. I was like, let's go,
Yeah.
whatever. And going into college, that's when I hit the point where like I was commuting to college. I didn't really hang out with a lot of people at the school. And I was on the basketball team and I felt like nobody really liked me at the basketball team. And then I didn't know anybody. So it was just a very like hard transition from being like super known in high school to like not being, no one really cared about me at all. So kind of going into that. And then also my basketball career in college didn't really go as planned either. I didn't like the coach would tell me that I was gonna play and then like wouldn't, and then I like started some games and then he completely just took me out, didn't play at all. So like my whole freshman and sophomore year I didn't play at all. So like, and again, that was the main reason why I was going to college. I mean, yes, I was
Mhm.
going to get education, but I went in for physical education, just thinking that that's what I was gonna do. But then the basketball really didn't go as planned. And then physical education didn't go as planned. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. So then once I was at the end of my sophomore year, that's when I was like, I really didn't know what exactly I was going to do from there. That's kind of where that identity crisis kind of came in, was that I played basketball my whole life. This is what I am. And then I kind of came to the point where I was like, what am I even going to do with myself? And like, so once I hit that road, that's kind of like that downward spiral that I started to go down.
Right. One thing about being an athlete, you said it was really is important. I feel like because of mentality.
Yeah.
When you're an athlete and you're, projected, man, you want to play, but then you don't play. I mean, you're on the bench for
Right.
2 years. Kind of just talk about really how you just mentally overcame some struggles like that. All of a sudden you're known, not known. How'd that affect you?
Looking back at it now, I think it made me a lot stronger. Like, because I had never, like, I really didn't quit. It was after my sophomore year when he told me that, like, I was going to be playing the next year, and then he wasn't going to bring anybody in. And then he brought in a shooting guard, and then he was like, complete lie. So, like, that's when I left. But, like, I never quit. You know what I mean? Because, like, I could have
Yeah.
quit my freshman and sophomore year, like, mid season. But, like, I think that it really made me stronger to just continue to push, because I would go really hard in practice, and, like, I would just try to prove who I was through like the practices and stuff like that, and it just kept me like resilient. And I think that that was like a huge thing at the time. It was like such a struggle, and I was like, why am I not playing? Like I'm showing that I'm doing this, and like, but I think looking back at it, it really was just more of like it helped me a lot grow, because again, that was a big part of my life to where like I thought I was gonna have this great college career, and it just kind of didn't turn out that way. But I think that it definitely made the shift as far as like what route I started to take because of like me being able to push through those times.
Right.
Yeah,
Did you like from that point, what about, understanding the why in your life, like why you're doing something?
right. So yeah, so that at that time, so as soon as I was done with basketball, I started working at Aldi. I just grabbed a job because then after that I went to sports marketing for college.
Okay.
So I went into sports marketing, and that I just kind of went in because I was like, I got to go to college. Like I just thought I had to go, and like this is what I had to do. So I got a job at Aldi, and then I started making like TikTok dances. I started doing all this stuff on TikTok, and like it started blowing up like crazy. Like I was doing like skits and stuff like that. So like that's when that really started to go. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do something here. And like so it kind of opened up an opportunity for me as far as like, and then I got into like modeling, which is kind of like a whole other story too, because like I got into modeling thinking that that was like my only way to go as far as fitness. And I was like, I have to become a model. So I like would do like underwear shoots and stuff like that. So like that was kind of like a route that I went down. And then I was just doing like shirtless videos, just trying to grab attention, truthfully. And like,
Mhm.
it hit a point where I was like doing it on a daily, and then I was like, it came to the point where I didn't feel like doing it anymore. And then that's where the why hit me. I was like, why am I even doing this? Like this, I don't even like generally want to go and do this. And like people were like commenting on my stuff, and I felt like an object more than anything. And it was like, it really like, that's when it like, kind of like really hit. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I have no plan as far as like what this is. So that was kind of like where that shift happened as far as like my why. And then leading into like kind of what I do now is like, I really was like on a purpose to find a why. And that's kind of where I found God and everything like that, like at that like all-time low, and just finding my reason, purpose, why is that like I just knew that I wanted to do something that was of value. I wanted to truthfully help people, and I didn't. Yes, making somebody laugh is great, but I wanted to have like true impact on people's lives, because I think that that like was my calling, and I think that that was like the one thing that I just wanted to do. So yeah, that was kind of like the route I wanted to go down. So just having like that full impact on people's lives is kind of my reason why, and truthfully getting through the things that I struggled with to help other people up, because I've had a lot of people help me as far as like mentors and stuff like that, help me get to where I'm at. So I want to be that same person, because like there's been mentors that changed my life and really helped me break through, and I really want to be that for somebody else, because I know that that's pretty much how life goes, is like there's somebody above you always, and like
Hmm.
they're gonna help you up, and your job is to help the people that are below, that kind of you've already been through, that you can help them up. And so like that's kind of like that ladder that I always kind of see myself where I'm at.
I love that. And thing also too, you're talking about really is so like relevant today, right? About, the culture of looking constantly at the
Yeah, yeah,
outward person, and then really sometimes the outward stuff is really still empty
right,
until you discover who you are inwardly. So
right.
that you kind of started discovering that. So talk about your kind of your inward strengthening and finding out who you were.
Yeah, so I'd say that I think there was a point where I was had all these followers, and like I had like I had pretty much everything you could think of as far as like social media wise, but I
Mhm.
still felt like so empty within me. And like that's where the strength came into me, that like I knew I wanted to do something at like like value based. And so nothing really filled me like that. None of that really filled me. So like as far as like strengthening within myself, I just knew that if I chased my passion and what God had planned for me, I just knew that I was going to be on my right track. And like that's my compass right now too, is that like just having that connection with God, is that like that's where I find where I need to go. And so like that's, and when I was at that all-time low, like I had my kind of like encounter with God, and like knowing that I had to go that route. So ever since I started following his voice, he's like directed my path to where pretty much exactly where I want to be. So like I'd have to give him all the strength, like thought, because like that he's really what has gotten me to where I'm at now, and like going forward, is because like my strength was through him, knowing that like whatever I go through is all on him. Like he's got me. So like that's kind of like always been my strength base, if that makes sense.
No, that's good. Because again, I know you're talking to people about maybe trying to find themselves, and people that are listening or watching today, they're maybe at a place where they reached empty,
Right.
though they're successful outwardly.
Right.
But were you like your encounter with God, or were you raised in in a church going home, or how did you start turning toward finding who you are through God?
So I'd say, like, yeah, like you said, I grew up Christian. Like my mom
Okay.
would like make me go to church and stuff like that. And so like it wasn't until I really got into college and more so by myself. So once it was out of high school and I was more by myself, I really had no one else to rely on. Like my parents weren't always there for me. Like it was more so like I didn't know I knew who God was, but I didn't know who God was, if that makes sense. Like I didn't
Yeah.
truly know Jesus. I didn't know him at the time. So yeah, that I think once I found like myself at that all-time low, um, it was it was truthfully just looking outward and actually real quick, like as far as like the testimony, because this is what really kind of just like turned me the opposite direction, is I was at Aldi, and this was when I was like popping off on social media, but I was really at the point where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like college, I didn't know anything. And we were super busy. And then this woman came into my line and she was like, can I ask you something? And we were like so packed. And I just remember like, yeah, what's up? Like, oh, what's up?
Yeah.
She was like, and then she like comes over and she's like whispering to me, she was like, how's your relationship with God? And I was like, it's good. Like, and I was kind of like brushing it off. I thought it was weird at first, and I was like, I gotta hurry up. But then she was like, basically what it was is that the Proverbs 3, 5, 6 was that like trust in God with all your heart and submit to him in all your ways and he's going to make your path straight. That's pretty much what it says, because I always revert back to it because I don't know exactly what she told me that day, but I knew it was something like just submit to him and he's going to help you direct your paths. So like that was the day, and I after she said that, I like chills went down my body. It was such like a God experience that like I couldn't even like, because it was just so weird the whole instance, and like it was so busy. And so like after that, I went into the break room. I remember like sitting there taking a deep breath, like, okay, like maybe I gotta start finding God. And so like that's when I was like, I mean, not everything changed, but like that's when I started pursuing God a lot more. I started reading the Bible, I started praying more. And like I was still figuring it all out. And I'm still on my journey, obviously, as we all are. So like it was just more so that direction of like walking the path rather than doing like all these things that really had no fulfillment for me at all. So like that's what really kind of like made my faith stronger, is like just having that. I always say that she was an angel, because like I don't know what it was, but that day was when like I can always look back and know that I started shifting and started walking in that direction and following God.
Yeah, no, I love that because again, it shows the power that God loves every person, and
Right.
He will send people by your path, right, at the
Yeah.
most unsuspecting time, man,
Right.
to really speak to you. That is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Proverbs 3:5, man. Trust the Lord with all
That's
your heart. I
and
love
that's
that.
yeah, that's the one I go to all the time, because it's just
Yeah.
true. You can't trust on your own self. Like you can't, because I've tried everything too. Like that's the other thing too, is I've tried everything. Like I've done like the smoking, I've drank, I've like went into porn, I've went into like trying to chase girls, video games. Like I've always tried to find something to fill myself with. And like there's nothing that can ever fulfill you the way God has, or like ever in my life. Like, and I've always like there's been times where I've gotten close to God and then fallen back to these ways, and then like I fall even
Hmm.
further, and then I go back to God, and it's always the answer. And like that's the biggest thing, is that like you can't rely on like yourself. You cannot rely on what you're doing, because like anything on this earth is not going to fulfill you the way that God does. So like that's what I love. That's like my favorite verse. That's like my all-time, like, because
Yeah.
especially once I read that verse one time, and I never remembered exactly what that woman said, but like when I read that verse for the first time, it hit me so like quick. I was like, that's what she was talking about. I was like, this like, and it just connected it all, like connected the dots in between.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I think a lot
Yeah.
of people have a stereotype about church,
Right.
that you got to be perfect or you got to have it all together, but I appreciate you sharing because people need
Yeah,
to
for
know,
sure.
man, we're all human, we're all on a journey,
Right.
and people are going to fall. The Bible says it, right? The righteous fall 7 times to get back up.
Right.
So that's good. I appreciate you sharing your
Yeah,
personal
no doubt.
encounter with God. So once you began to, let's say, find faith,
Yeah.
how did that start shifting your why?
It's a great question. I'd say, um, like I said, I always kind of knew God, right? But I didn't know like that I didn't like know him personally, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like once I started to learn him personally, I knew that he had a purpose for me, and that I was a servant, and like I wanted to be a servant with a servant heart. And so like in that way, like that's where my servant heart, like that's where I started to chase, was that like I knew that he had a purpose for me as far as being someone that helped other people. And so like that's kind of like the route that I started to take as far as just, you know, wanting like to help other people. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Cause like ever since then, I just always knew that like, you know, being more like Jesus, and like that's always like my main goal, is to just be more like Jesus. So if I can do that with my business and everything that I do, that's like the route that so like everything I do now is like what helped me, and then all trying to help other people with what helped me. Cause like,
Hmm.
yeah. So if that makes sense, if that answers your question.
No, it does, because I think
Okay.
we all need to realize that. I think we all definitely have worked through some challenges in our life and continue. Of course, life is like that,
Yeah.
adversity, whatever it is. But reaching back, reaching down, putting back into people what you've come out of,
Yeah.
and what you've learned is so important. That makes an impact. We all need to learn to do that.
Right.
But in your instance, in your case, you started training, people, started
Right.
coaching people. So really, how does that transition in the sense of your faith, training people? How do you utilize that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
as
feel like
far
to help people.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as for me, that's where I found like that's when I really started my journey myself. Cause like I got into the gym, and like that's what kind of started making me better. And like it truthfully like did save my life in that sense of like
Hmm.
I that's all I had at the time. Like I again I wasn't as close with God. So like I was just in the gym working on myself, trying to become better. And like I don't want to act like I like didn't like know God, but like he was just never like on the forefront as he is now. So like it's just I was just trying to live better for myself. It was more of like selfish ambition. But like it was there because like I knew I wanted to push myself, and I wanted to see what I was capable of. So I always continued to push myself there. And that's what brought me closer to God too, because I was trying to be better, but I didn't want to just be better in the gym. And I
Hmm.
think that that's one of the main reasons why I made higher standards too, is because like it's not like I want to just be in the gym. I want to be an all around, like showing up in all aspects, just being a higher standard man. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was crushing it in the gym, and like that was great. But then it came to the point where I wasn't completely empty, because I love the gym always. Like I still will always love the gym. But I just knew I had to work on my relationships. I had to work on my relationship with God. I had to work with my financial, like I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I just felt like very out of it. But like the gym kept me like grounded in some sense, as far as like this helped me a lot to build who I was. And so I'd say it started with the gym, and then like that's what helped me build in all other areas. And like that's why it's so important to me, and that's why I started my own business in the way that I wanted to go, is because that's what I wanted to be. Because there's sometimes people just feel so lost, but the fitness side of things can, once you start that self improvement within yourself, everything else really starts to come into play. And like you start to think sharper, you start to like show up as a better version of yourself in your relationships, at your work, and stuff like that. So but that's truly what got me closer to God too, because I knew that I wanted to become a better version of like a better man. And like I knew that he was the answer. And like I just would sometimes avoid talking to him, and like, but I'd always like know that he was the answer as far as like directing me where I needed to go.
Yeah. What is so share with us, help us. What does it teach you? What does it teach a person? Let me say this. What does it teach a person uh starting to work on their health, work on feeling better about themselves in all other areas of life, right? So you begin to train, work out, people are doing that. What does it teach us? Does it teach us discipline? Does it teach us, how to stay structured? Help us
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, definitely. I would say discipline. Discipline is the biggest thing, because if you have discipline, I say you have freedom, because like you have to be disciplined in certain areas, and like if you're not disciplined in anything, you're gonna feel lost. And it's something that is very simple as far as like going to the gym on these certain days, that is going to build your discipline. It's not something that you want to do all the time. It's like you have to build your discipline in some type of way. And I think discipline is one of the most important things that you could possibly have. So like just by building that, showing up when you don't want to, like that's something
That's
that's
good.
huge, at pushing yourself past limits that you think, because there's been so many times even now in the gym where I push myself, where I think I can't go anymore, and I push myself past it. And it's like it's such a mental game, but you break that barrier in the gym. And that's what helped me too, is like you can break through like your own personal beliefs of like what you can do, and you can break through that. And I think that was super powerful too, is like when I noticed I like went for like a minute 30 on my wall sit rather than 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just crushed that. And like
Yeah.
it was all mental. But yeah, I think it helps a lot with just the mental state, and then just self-improvement too, because again, I got into the gym and I started self-improving, but like you realize that like you want to become that best version of yourself. So like it's going to open up other areas of like just trying to improve yourself in all areas. So I think that that's another thing too, is just finding that self-improvement and trying to better yourself in the best way possible.
No, that's good because I think it does teach us like show up when you don't want to. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
wants to
That's
get up
it.
every day, go to work? Who wants to
Right.
stay, in a situation sometimes it's tough.
Right.
But so I think that is right. I think training and physical training does teach you that mentally, man. I think it does help.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah. So help us for a second. Let's talk about physical for a second, 'cause I think it's so important because we live in a society and culture that is predominantly obese,
Right.
predominantly, man, just, in bad health, really. You see
Yeah.
that all around us. So how do you take a client and what do you teach them just to get started? Because right, that's the most important. They just get started. So if somebody's coming to you, they're overweight, they're really trying to work on their health. How do you start getting them on that journey? Help us on that.
Yeah, so it's a baseline of just building your habits because like and I've noticed that too myself. Like I used to think like maybe at the beginning when I first started, I'd be like, you just gotta go to the gym. You just gotta go to the gym. But like
Yeah.
it is building your habits on a consistent basis. And like whether that be like it doesn't have to be 10K steps, it doesn't have to be a gallon of water, but like you have to find discipline in something to build on. So like when somebody's coming to me and they've never been to the gym before and they're trying to get into it and they're struggling, like we're just going to find 2 or 3 things that we could be super consistent on, whether that be steps, whether that be water, whether that be going to the gym 3 times a week, whether that be getting in a good sleep schedule. Like those are usually the baseline things that I want them to start building on, because once you start building on that foundation of making sure you're staying active and hitting your step goal on a consistent basis, once you're going to the gym 3 times a week, absolutely smashing it, like you can build on top of that instead of going 5 days a week and then eventually burning out and like
Hmm.
just completely saying screw it because you think that you have to go 5 days a week. Like the most important thing is like you don't, it's not about just like a short period of time. You want to figure out how to do this for the rest of your life. So to start small and build on that is the most important. And that's like my first phase. It's called the build it phase. Is you have to build the foundation of what we're trying to do here. So it's build it and then it comes become it, because you become the higher standard man. You start doing the things that are necessary, and then you the be it. And then that's like the part as far as like you become it, you can do it on a daily basis. So like that's kind of like the 3 phases that I take them through. But that first one is the build it phase, which is the most important thing, because like if you can't build, and the mindset goes along with that too. I do mindset trainings with them as well, but like just changing your mindset to knowing that this is a long-term thing. Like think about where you want to be 2 years from now, not in the next few months. Like, yes, we want to have goals the next few months, but like if you keep doing what you're doing right now, where are you going to be at in 2 years? And so like by changing that perspective, because that's what really helped me too, is that like perspective as far as like, I'm not quitting anytime soon. So like, how can I figure this out to work for me long term?
No, that is so powerful, man, what you just said about build it, become it, and be it. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I love that philosophy.
Yep.
Build it, become it, and be it. So if you're watching this, that's all you got to do is build it first, right?
Yep.
Just get
So important.
started.
Yeah.
And I love that part too, because I think we want to see instant results, and you go through this, no doubt, people, but I see it too in life. We want to see instant turnaround sometimes, instant results, but sometimes it doesn't happen like that. You got to just stay with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's sometimes the biggest thing is just staying consistent with long enough. I just had a conversation with a client yesterday, and she was
Yeah.
like, he was telling me that like he was lost 5 pounds and he was feeling like he doesn't, like he feels like he's struggling, but he lost 5 pounds, which is awesome, which was within a month. And but he wasn't taking progress pictures either. And I'm like, that's where you have to like if you take progress pictures from the beginning to the end, like that's when you know you're like making that progress forward. So yeah,
Yeah. Seeing results.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah. I like that because it is long term. Life is long term. So that's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
You're not quitting too soon.
No, I can't. Yeah, you can't. Because like so many people think that like if they fall off like within like a few weeks that it's all over. Like you have to.
Yeah.
It's more so finding that sustainability and building on
Yeah.
it rather than anything. Like you have to find what is going to work for you right now, and then as you progress, you're going to get better, and then you build on top of it.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
So speak to us again, because you're 25 years old, you're doing great things and helping people's lives. That's just a powerful part of your story, is that we're never too young to get started, never too old to get started. But what did you have to overcome? Tell us how you overcame maybe some fears, some things in your life to even get started in business. You start a business is a fearful thing, right? Did you have to
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
overcome? What did you overcome to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was basically burning the boats. And if you know that, I don't know exactly what the story is, but basically like these people
Yeah.
went on like a war thing and then they like but that's what I refer to it as. Like you go on and you burn the boats, and then like you have to make sure that it gets done. So what I did to burn the boats was I was working Aldi and I was working as a in-person personal trainer, and I knew that I wanted to get online, but I was just using the training and the Aldi for like my safety net. Like it was my safety net the entire time. And I knew that if I quit my in-person job and I quit Aldi, that it would eventually like I would have to figure it out. And so like that's pretty much what I did. And I think that just changing your environment, I think, is the most important thing, because that was my environment for a long time, but I knew I didn't want to stay stuck there and I wanted to get moving on it. So it was just basically burning the boats as far as like getting rid of Aldi, getting rid of in person, and figuring it out as far as like, and which was scary in itself. But I also hired mentors, which is a beautiful thing right now, because like there's so many people out there, and like that's why I became one too, is because I got my life changed by mentors. And like there's people out there that will help teach you get to where you want to be, and it doesn't have to be through school, it doesn't have to be through that. So like just finding people that can help you get there. So that helped me out a lot too, and being surrounded by people that were other personal trainers that were in this business coaching together, and then building on top of that. So like that was, I would say, is the biggest thing, is just changing your environment and to burn the boats. Because if you're staying stuck and you're like staying in that same spot, you're going to stay there for a really long time, because it's really easy to stay comfortable and be comfortable, but you have to be willing to like get yourself out of the uncomfortability and push through it, because you can push through it, and like you're able to push through it. It's just more so like it's so much easier to stay comfortable in that, like that safety net.
Yeah, I mean, you're teaching me. I love this because again, it is about this man right here. It is about just, throwing it all away, whatever. And you say burn the boats. The
Yeah, yeah,
analogy is so perfect. You're not going back to that,
right.
but yet you got to be all in, right?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no in between either. Because then if you even think, because like I've, don't get me wrong, I've had times where I thought like, dang, should I go like, because with entrepreneurship you're so up and down like with what
Yeah.
you're doing. So like you don't have a strict income, and like for me doing that my whole life pretty much since I was like 15 to doing like this is just a totally different ball game. So like when I thought about me going to like a different, like I tried to do fire truck or a fireman, like I was
Mhm.
like looking into things, but then and like that's where God came in too, because I would pray about it and I'd be like, "Am I supposed to be doing this? Like, is this?" Because like it would have it up and downs, and like, "Am I supposed to be doing this?" But God has made it like very clear to me, like that I like, and that's truly something that's been on my heart like my whole life, is just like that I'm meant to do something big, and I don't know what that is, and I like whether that's I reach my community, like that's big to me, like, but I just know that I'm like meant to like help people, and it's just always been on my heart, and that's why I'm not saying anything against like like physical education or anything like that, but it just wasn't my calling. Like I felt like it
Yeah.
just was not for me, and like that I wanted to reach like a higher people, or like not higher people, but like more people. And
Hmm.
so like that's kind of like the route I took as far as like with social media and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
No, it's good because people again, want to start a business. They feel like, man, but it's not easy, is it?
no, 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 it's
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what I was getting to. I totally didn't even really finish that either. Like
Yeah.
yeah, so I was like trying to do all these other things, but then like I said, I came to God and like was praying, and like that's what I knew I had to do, is because like, and you just have to stick through it, and hearing, and this is why I like to share my story too, is because hearing other people's stories got me through. Because if I look at anybody, like people are human just like you, and so like I think that like if they can do it, I can do it too, and like I just keep that mindset, because whether I'm going through lows and highs, like hearing other people's stories, I think it's so important to like share your story, because that's what's going to help you and encourage you to keep going, because it does happen. Not everything's perfect. Like people go through ups and downs too, as much as they put on like their Instagram, whatever, that everything's perfect.
Yeah.
No, there's ups and downs with everything. And like you have to just continue to pursue it and have full faith. That's the other thing too, is that's why my faith has gotten stronger, because of those harder times, of those up and downs, of like, am I going to keep doing this, whatever. And like just having full faith that like God is going to continue to like paint the way for me. So like that's why I'm just having faith in that. But yeah, it's
That's,
it's it's more so having faith, and that I think is a skill as well, is to have faith, because it's easy to say, oh, have faith. Oh, okay. Like, and like, oh
yeah.
yeah, everything's all good. Like, no, it
Right.
takes time for you to actually build your faith, and truly trusting in God. So like that's another thing too that's like really helped me, is just having full faith.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, man, because again, people need to hear that. It's like change your environment is so important. Like you said a minute
Yeah.
ago,
That's everything. Yeah.
praying and seeking guidance.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next thing you said is so powerful. We all need, we're never too young or too old for it. We need mentors,
Yeah.
people in our life, honestly, because talk about peer pressure. Talk
Yeah.
about that for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, because like my family loves me so much and I appreciate what they have to say, but like they'll try to tell me to like go and get these jobs and like it's just that's just not like I'm truthfully listening to people that are where I want to be. Like the people that I'm listening to are in the position that I want to be. And it's no offense to anybody that's like in my family, but like I don't want to be where you're at. And like there's no
Good.
disrespect, but it's just like I know that I want to be here. And like so they would try to tell me to do like HVAC, have like a consistent job. And it's like that's kind of where me thinking like, am I supposed to be doing this came in, is because like they would tell me that and I would be like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, should I just do this? It would be a lot easier. And like kind of getting that peer pressure for you. But like that's where the environment had to change too. Cause I was living with my parents for a while, pretty much until I was up to 21.
Hmm.
And they were like, it was just kind of always nonstop. Like once I started the business, it was like, you should really try to do this. You should really try to do this. And it's just like, it got to me because I was like, I don't want to do that. And like, and I would surround myself sometimes, like, as far as like the business coaching that I was in, like I would see these high level people like getting like making money off of being online. And I was like, I know it's possible. Like I see it, I like understand that it's possible and like I can do this. And so like I'd have that mentality, but then I'd also have them. So like changing my environment in that sense, just people that are surrounding you that just because I think my parents do want me to succeed. Obviously, like they love me, and it's just more so out of the care of their heart. Like just be safe, play
Hmm.
the safe route. Um, I think that that's like you, but like you can't be surrounding yourself if you're trying to reach that next level. You can't like be okay with being like where you're not supposed to be. Because if I were to go get that job, like I just know that it would hold me down in some type of sense. So like I had to get away as far as like surrounding myself with people that were doing online coaching. And then that's where I found my best friend was through this business coaching. And like he's faith-based too. Like he's like one of my best friends. So like and he's very high level too as far as just trying to improve. And like that's all I could ask is like people that are just trying to grow in all aspects. And like that's what I wanted to surround myself with. Not people that are saying, oh, it's okay, like it's all good if you just kind of stay here. Like you know what I mean? Like so I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I surrounded myself with people that where I wanted to be because the environment, like you said too, like your peer pressure, everything, like if you're surrounded by that, it's so easy. And that's where when I was living with my parents was the most time where I was like, am I supposed to be doing this? Because it was everywhere as far as like maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. My aunt's telling me, like, and then so it's just like, no, I know what I want. And like that's where my heart, my faith came into is like I know that I'm meant for something else. And like I love you guys, but like and I love from a distance too. Like I love my family so much, but it's just like you can't be surrounded by that if because it can consume you so easily. And it did consume me for a little bit. Like it was just like I had to get out of it and kind of get away from it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so good because again, even your own family might not intentionally, of
Right.
course, hold you back,
Right.
speak that in your life about don't do it, but yet you're teaching us something really about knowing who you are, what's in you to do.
Yeah.
And then, life is a risk. So no matter
Yeah.
what you do, you got to
Everything.
take a risk.
Yeah.
So that's really helping somebody. I thank you for sharing that. It's
Yeah.
powerful because it is important to
And it's
get the
hard
right.
too.
Yeah,
It's hard
no
because
doubt.
you love them too, and you're like you want to make them
Yeah.
happy in some type of way, and like it's hard in that sense too. But like it's more so, and but that's where again like I follow my faith because like I know that like God has a plan for me and that like He's gonna take care of me. He's gonna provide for me whatever I'm doing, and like it's just more so that connection rather than like my relationships here.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
people need to hear that. It's
Yeah.
good. It's so good because it will stop you, but now you've allowed, wait a minute, your convictions, right?
Yep.
Knowing who you are to keep you going forward.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. So strengthen yourself in faith. One last thing is in you're transitioning to where you are now. Where do you see yourself going?
So that's a good question because I think about that sometimes too, and I still pray about that. I know that I would like to speak on stages. Like that's like one thing that I envision myself doing is like speaking on stages and just sharing like literally what I'm doing now at a higher scale as far as just like continuing myself to get better and like continuously to chase like growth in myself and then helping people that are struggling with where I was at. And so like that constant like kind of like that ladder thing that I was talking about earlier is like
Yeah.
I just think that I might will do that at a higher scale. Like that's like my main vision as far as like, but wherever again, I leave it to God too, because like that isn't fully clear. I think about that, but like I don't know if that's His will for me. So I just leave it to God and like just I take it truthfully day by day. And I know it's important to have that vision, but like I know that I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing that's gonna lead to bigger things and just following kind of His voice and like what He has for me is gonna lead where I need to be and reach the people that I need to reach. And that's why I'm not because even once I reached all those followers, I was like, I didn't even care about the followers anymore. I was like, I just want to reach the people that like I can genuinely help. And like, I don't even care like how many followers I continue to get. It's like if I can help these people here or this person here, like that's everything to me. Cause I know that I'm put in that position because God put me in that position to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, it's that to me, it's that when I say call, I keep saying the word culture, but it's a society we live in the sense of going, everybody at social media wants all the followers, wants all the
Yeah.
likes. But when you get past that and really
It's
realize your value is in helping, if it's just one person, but then from that, you've been faithful. Now, I just want to encourage you real quick because this came to me to tell you this, is that when you're faithful where you're at, right? The Bible says that you're faithful in the small things,
right.
then God's going to reward you with many things. So it's
Right.
coming your way, bro. I really
Right.
believe that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Well, man, just so there's a couple of things right I want you to share before we leave. I appreciate your time. Is if I'm listening to this, watching this, and I want to start a business, or if I'm wanting to begin to get myself in better shape, health wise, what are three things I could do to keep either taking that first step, what you learn, just share with us what you would talk to somebody about either starting a business, getting in shape. And one thing hits me right now is how do you keep endurance? How do I build endurance in
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say the first thing like we just talked about is environment. Like environment is truthfully everything. So like if you want to build a business, surround yourself with people that are building businesses, surround
Okay.
yourself that are like people that have built businesses, get yourself and I like someone that is going to help you get there. And it's the same thing for coaching too. Like that's why I'm a coach too, is to help people lose weight because it's a stressful thing and like there's sometimes people don't know how to do it. So it's like getting people to help you get to where you want to be faster. And I think that's probably the second one too, is truthfully like environment, just like who you surround yourself with on a daily basis, your friends and everything like that. And then investing in yourself because you have to invest in yourself for you to get a return on yourself. And
That's
like
good.
skills, your health, anything as far as like relationship, like counseling, therapy, like things like that, like things that are going to benefit you, like not just but going to buy shoes and all this stuff. Like if you invest in yourself, you're going to see a return on yourself. So I think that that's the other thing too. And and the other thing is God. Like that really is like my answer. And like that's why what is my answer to everybody is that like you just have to have God in everything. And I think that like I didn't understand that early on is that like God has to be with you with everything that you do. Like everything you do has to be on the forefront. And like there is and I'm still working on it. I'm not perfect in any way, but like
Sure,
that's
nobody is.
what I know that I'm working towards is just continuing to have God with everything that I do when I talk to somebody, when I'm on this podcast, like when like whatever the case may be, like just have him at the forefront leading the way because when you go down your own way, it just there's no benefit of you doing your own thing. And I've learned that many times and like just continuing to keep him on the forefront is the most important thing.
That's good, man. Environment, right?
Yep.
People
Invest
around
in
you to help you
yourself.
get where you faster. Invest in
Yep.
yourself is a
Yep.
great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, man. And God, putting God at the center of your life.
Yep.
Isn't it amazing though, just sharing this with you, isn't it amazing how we'll invest, like you said, in shoes, we'll invest in all these different things, but I see it too. A lot of people don't want to invest in themselves.
No.
Whether
Yep.
it's getting books, whether it's
Right.
getting a trainer,
Yeah.
a nutritionist or whatever. We need to invest in ourselves, right? You get on a plane, what they tell you, man, the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first.
Yep.
You got to get yourself right, man, before you
Before
got
you can
somebody.
help anybody. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
So you're online coaching, is that correct?
Yep. Yep. All online.
So do you take I mean, you take clients that reach out to you based on your schedule, of course, and all you're doing. So you're open to people from all over the country, huh? All over the
Yep.
world, really.
Yep. Yep.
That is so good. So before we end this podcast, tell us how, if people are watching or listening, they want to reach out to you, how do they follow you? How do they reach out to you? Give us that.
Yeah. So I would say the best place is probably Instagram, which is just Jacob Buchner underscore. And then my Facebook is another good one too, is just Jacob Buchner. And then on TikTok is Coach Buck. And that's just more so all my videos. But Instagram, I share all my stories on a daily basis, what I'm doing on a daily basis, and same with Facebook. So those are the handles.
That is so good. Jacob, I appreciate you being on our podcast. It's great to meet you. I'm following you, man. You're doing great things. I see your stories, people's lives. Literally, y'all follow him. It's a great
Yeah.
follow. You're seeing literally on your stories people's lives being transformed.
Yeah.
It is really, really good, man. Thank you
I
for that.
appreciate it, man. I
All
appreciate
right,
that.
bro. Well, we appreciate you tuning in this episode of Another Side of the Story. Remember, tune in next week. It's going to be great. Have a good one.